Hi, my name is Lewis Powers. I'm a sophomore here at Malone University. I major in Bible and theology as well as philosophy. One thing I do when I'm not in school, in fact something that I've been doing for the last 3 years, is ride my bicycle across America. I've ridden my bicycle more than 8,000 miles. I have quite a different background than most of the people that come to school here. I grew up in an abusive home, and I didn't even see myself as somebody who would end up in college. My dad told me that I was stupid and I would never amount to anything, and so I kind of believed that. And I left high school and got involved in the streets, and I got involved in gangs and crime and drugs, and for quite a few years I was just a drug addict and a thief. And I had an experience though several years ago where I actually overdosed on cocaine, and I knew that I was dying and I was about to stand before God, and I was really ashamed of how I lived my life, and I was actually really scared. And I looked up to God and I was like, I am so sorry about how I've lived my life. I have nothing to offer you. And at that moment I felt this reassurance. All of a sudden, I knew in my heart that God had promised that He would accept me because of what Jesus Christ did on the cross for us. And I had never really understood that to be true until that night. Obviously I had heard it before, but that night all of a sudden I realized that this is for real. And I had this peace in my heart that overwhelmed me. And although I knew that I was dying, I laid down and closed my eyes with this sense of peace in my heart that I knew that God was going to accept me in spite of how I had lived my life. But something miraculous happened that night. I didn't die. I woke up in the emergency room. Somehow the ambulance had come and got me. I don't know if somebody made a phone call or what, but the next day I woke up and I was like, now what do I do? Over the course of the next few years, I understood that I had been starving spiritually and that the Word of God was my food. And now that I understood that God accepted me, I didn't have to be afraid to approach Him. So I started reading His Word, and I started to change me in my heart. And I grew up in Ohio, so I decided that I was going to come back home and spend time with my family and go to college. So I decided what better way to do that than to ride a bicycle across America. And I rode from Houston, Texas to Santa Monica, California, and from Santa Monica, California to here. It was 5,040 miles. It took me 5.5 months. And all along the way, it was really awesome because God kept putting people in my path that I could share my story with. When I would go through cities, I would go down into the downtown of the cities, and I have a little banner that I put up on my bike that says, "Prayer changes things, can I pray with you?" And sometimes I'll just spend all day in the downtown of a city talking to people and saying, "Hey, can I pray with you?" And so I've got this big, huge, awkward looking bicycle, and so people are always really attracted to it. They're like, what's going on with this guy? And they see my sign, and so people will constantly be coming up and talking to me, and I'm able to share with them what God has done in my life and how He has brought me from living on the streets to going to college, and how He has changed me from using drugs to using books. And a lot of people's lives have been affected. A lot of people have messaged me and talked to me about how their encounter with me has impacted them greatly. And I use social media a lot in what I do. In fact, Facebook helps me a lot. It gives people that I run into out on the road a medium that they can stay in touch with me, that they can follow me along the rest of my journeys. I meet people on the road, and my story is very impactful for them, and they're in awe about what I'm doing. People go on Facebook, The Adventure of a Lifetime with Lewis Powers, and they follow me on these journeys that I take. So it helps me to continue to impact their life after the initial encounter that the Lord brings us together.